Death has two different meanings that are essential for us to differentiate. 1. The act of dying or termination of life. 2. The state of being dead. All humanity will experience the act of dying, but absolutely no one will ever experience the state of being dead. And this is because,
For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything.
This may be comforting to some, but scary to others. It all depends on your point of view, your perspective, your emotional stability, your upbringing, and your understanding. What I want to do in this little article is give you an encouraging perspective of death. How can anything be encouraging when it comes to death, you are probably asking. Well, let me try and answer that for you. Virtually every time I have read that verse, it was to prove to someone that we do not have an immortal soul that lives on after death of the body, nor do we have consciousness as is taught in Christendom. But this past year I took another look at this verse and saw something else that I had never contemplated before. The living know, the dead know nothing. The dead don't know that they are dead. When you die, you will not know that you are dead. But it gets better. Not only will you never know that you are dead at some point in the future, but from your perspective, you never even lost consciousness. This to me was a marvelous revelation. Once God creates consciousness in a human, they will never ever know anything but consciousness. From my perspective and from your perspective, we will never know anything but life and feelings and emotions and consciousness. From our perspective, we will never know what it is like to be dead. We will probably die someday, assuming that the Lord doesn't come first. But we will never know that we were dead. We will never know what it is to be dead or to be unconscious. Others will know and sorrow that we are dead and gone. But from our perspective, we will never lose conscious reality, and we will never experience being dead. Now, I didn't say we would not experience dying. Most, albeit not all, people who die experience dying, but they do not experience death itself, nor will they ever. It is impossible for someone to experience the death state, seeing that where there is no consciousness, there is no experience, and therefore there is no memory of it. I will carry this one step further. Even if there was no such thing as a resurrection from the dead would never know that they died and would never know that they are dead. We may all go through the fear of dying or even the pain of dying, but there is no pain and no fear in death itself. No one who is presently dead is aware of it or experiencing it or being frightened by it or anything else. I was tempted to make that caption, "Death is like sleep," but that would be scripturally inaccurate, as nowhere do the scriptures state that death is like sleep, but rather that death is sleep. God prepared Moses for death with the following.
And the Lord said unto Moses, Behold, thou shalt sleep with thy fathers.
David said,
Consider and hear me, O Lord my God. Lighten mine eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death.
When Lazarus was dead, Jesus said,
Our friend Lazarus sleepeth, but I go, that I may awake him out of sleep.
Do you fear when your children sleep at night? You know that they are safe in sleep. Even in sleep, we have a slight awareness of life, especially when we are dreaming or falling in and out of sleep. But in death, there is no consciousness nor subconsciousness, and so you will never know that you are sleeping. You know that your children will awake in the morning. We all who died in Christ shall awake in the morning of resurrection, and when we do, we might remember dying, but we will not remember ever being dead. On 5 different occasions, I came very near to death. 3 of the 5 times I was unconscious. For all practicality, I was dead. I remember what happened before and after being unconscious, but I remember nothing of being unconscious. Yet I knew that I was, but only after the fact by the evidence, not from my actual experience of having been under. The actual fact of death is no different from what I already experienced several times, and you have all experienced it already as well. We all sleep, and unless we have bad dreams, the experience of sleep itself is nothing fearful or painful. Sleep is a way that God can set people aside for a little while as He works with our children and our children's children. Centuries and millennia will pass for some, yet they will know no death, only consciousness. From our perspective, we will never know anything but life and consciousness. Death won't even be an illusion. It won't be at all. And that is because,
For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything.
the Apostle Paul was familiar with this verse, seeing that he earnestly studied the Hebrew Scriptures. With relation to this concept that the dead know not anything, Paul made the following statements.
For we know that if the tent of our earthly dwelling be taken down, we have a building from God, a house not made by hands, Ionian, in the heavens. For indeed, in this we are groaning, earnestly desiring to be invested with that habitation of ours which is from heaven, and surely having been invested, we shall not be founded destitute. For indeed, those being in the tent are groaning, being oppressed, in which we desire not to be divested but invested, that the mortal may be absorbed by life. Now he who has produced us for this same thing is that God who had given to us the pledge of the Spirit. Therefore, being always confident, and knowing that being at home in the body, we are from home, away from the Lord, for we are walking by faith, not by sight. But we are confident and well pleased rather to be separated from the body, and to be at home with the Lord.
Yes, Paul knew that once he died, the next waking moment would be in resurrection with a new body, and although it would happen in an instant, from this life to the next life without missing a heartbeat, in the twinkling of an eye, less than a second, nonetheless, it would have to wait until the last trump. But to Paul, from his perspective, it would only be but a moment in time, seeing that,
For the living know that they shall die, but the dead know not anything. But now is Christ risen from the dead, and become the first fruits of them that slept.
soon we too shall be like him and see our Creator as he is.
Beloved, now are we the sons of God, and it doth not yet appear what we shall be. But we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is. And every man that hath this hope in him purifieth himself even as he is pure.
Make no mistake, death is an enemy, but it is being abolished by the one who has already had victory over it. And although we will never experience being dead, we certainly experience the loss of our loved ones who have died, and they will experience loss when we die. So take courage. If you are reading this little article, then you are alive, and that is all you will ever know. Life.